Hey folks, Eric the Old Jarhead here. Welcome back to the channel. Time to get some more milling done. I love the fact that the mill is running good. I just tell you, it's exciting to have the mill running right. After all that fight I had to get this thing running good again, I'll drop a link down in the description if you want to see the video where I actually fixed the mill, and not the one that I thought I fixed it or the other one that I thought I fixed it, but where I actually fixed it. Now, we're back to milling. So, we're back to making 2x4s, so let's get to it. Alright, here we go, getting down to the end of that first cut. So obviously you got to get the log loaded up, but once I got that log loaded up, the first thing I did was I rolled it around, and I've talked about this a lot before. You know, you roll it around so that you can find out where the stress is. Over the course of the last dozen years or so, I've gotten a pretty good feel for what they're going to do, and usually if a log bends a certain way, even just slightly, it generally translates into the lumber's going to bend that way too. And you can mitigate some of that by, one, choosing where to put the bend. And I'm always talking about this. You know, I put the hooks to the right, meaning I want it to bend to my right horizontally when I put it up on the deck. And then I just know, okay, that's where it is. So the next turn I do, which is 90 degrees, it's going to be vertical and then horizontal and then vertical and then horizontal and so on. So if you kind of pay attention to that, and you always load your logs the same way, and again, thank you Magic Man over at Forestry Forum. He's been a fantastic mentor to me over the years, though you may not realize it. I think he was the first one that ever told me that, and I thought, wow, that makes sense. That's back in my LT10 days. Put the hooks to the right, get it up on the deck, take that cap cut, and then roll it 90 degrees. Take another cap cut, roll it 90 degrees, take another cap cut, and then chunk, drop down and get your cants. Now, you've probably heard me talk about odds over evens a lot lately, and it's just something that, again, this comes from Lynn, Magic Man, over at Forestry Forum. I can't say it enough. I didn't figure this out on my own, folks, so if you're watching this to learn how to do sawmilling, well, guess what? I had to talk to other people, watch other people, do all that myself. So part of the reason why I enjoy doing this for you is because I think, you know what, somebody helped me out, so why shouldn't I help you out? So in any case, odds over evens, all that really means is that if you're cutting 3 cants out of a log, then that center cant is going to capture the heart. And if you cut an odd number of lumber when you're coming down the log, then that center piece of lumber should capture the heart. Now, obviously, it doesn't always work that way, and that's what you saw in my last video, and I can drop a link down in the comments for you on that one. But you'll see it again in this video, and it's because logs don't always agree, right? I mean, Mother Nature does what Mother Nature wants to do. So in this case, the log's not big enough for me to get an odd number of pieces of lumber out of this log, meaning that in one cant, I want, 5, 7, 9, 11. I don't want 4, 6, or 8, because if I get 4, 6, or 8, I'm going to split the heart. However, sometimes the log's only going to give you 8 pieces. So what do? Well, when you get down to the middle, you have a couple choices. And generally what I do is I either have my simple set up to deal with that. So let's say I'm cutting 1 5/8. So I'll have my simple set to 1 3/4. That way I've got that 1/8 of an inch for the curve. And I will have it either set at 3 3/4 for the width if I'm milling 2x4s, or I might just have it set at 1 inch. And what that will allow me to do is when I come in above the heart, I can just drop it 1 inch, take a 7/8 of an inch board out, come below it, and then start over. It's kind of simple. Now, if you're like me and you write your depth on your simple set, that's what I do. You know what? You'll know then if I drop 1 inch and now I want to come up underneath that heart and just take it out in a 3/4 inch board or something like that. Or if I drop 1 inch, honestly, I can just get right back on my simple set. The problem is I've now dropped 1 inch instead of 1 inch and 3/4. And if I planned 1 3/4 inch all the way down, well, then I'm off by now 3/4 of an inch. So I got to take that somewhere else. Well, if I've written it down on my simple set, I already know maybe my next cut's at 5 1/8, and I'm sitting at 5 3/4 or whatever I ended up at when I tried to box out that heart. So I kind of skipped in a little bit there. Then all I got to do is go to 5 1/8 and rock and roll down and go. It's also a time when you'll see me roll up the cants if there's still some wane on the bottom. That's when you're likely to see that happen, because I know I got to make a correction anyway, and I would rather make the correction where there's wane and bark on that log. And you can see in this log, there's wane and bark underneath it. So there's an advantage for me when I go to miss that heart, so I don't split the pith, or maybe even box it in, or just box it in a 1x or something, to just kind of flip them all up right there. They're lighter, they're smaller, it's easy to do, and I'll flip them up. Ideally, of course, if I had flitched down to a perfectly flat bottom when I was working on the bottom, then I wouldn't have to do that. So that's something else you can also do, but when you're dealing with a little bit smaller logs that don't really give you enough room to do that, you might not. So just something to think about. All right, let me keep rolling here. Let's get her done. It is so good to be back milling again, folks. I got to tell you, I just love it. Fantastic to have the mill back. I can't say it enough, and love being out there at the property. But hey, while I'm at it, there's something you can do for me. If you'd hit that like button, I would really appreciate it if you did. Just smash that thing for me. It really helps the channel out, and I appreciate it, folks. Thank you very much for that. Let's take a look at what I'm doing. This pertains to the last video I put out, in which I talked about production milling and trying to roll the log a lot less and get the job done sooner so you can produce more per hour. So let's go have a look. All right, here we go. So I made a cut, then I rolled it and made a cut, then I rolled it and made a cut, and then I made a cut, and then I made a cut. And then I rolled it up again, and I took my first cut at the right height so that I could drive right to the deck. And you'll notice though that when I got down here, this right here is where the pith is, and my heartwood, you know, the juvenile wood is right here. So I'm gonna catch a little bit on this guy here, but what I did is I got down to this one here, and I said, okay, I'm gonna split it, or at least not get past it enough that I don't split the pith, and I'm gonna capture some of that heartwood. So I split the difference. I took 7/8 of an inch out here, took another 7/8 out. So basically that 1 3/4 inches that I was planning on taking, I took out it right here, and then dropped down from here on my simple set to my next cut, and away I can go. And that's all I did here, was I just wanted to take this out and get as much of this pith and heartwood out of this as I could. I don't want it in my 2x4s. I clipped a little bit on this one here. I think it'll be fine. But that's all I'm doing. I could have just taken this cut right out and I would have saved this board and thrown this one out. But I really didn't want to split that guy, and he's right there. I just didn't want to do it. So it just is what it is. Sometimes that pith is not perfectly centered, so that when you start your first cut, you're going to nail it right in the middle of a 2x. So I just shim those out. I can use these for other purposes, trim boards, that kind of thing. Again, I could have taken a 2x out. I chose not to. I'll have better wood down here, and that's all I was doing there. And you can see I'm not even going to have to rotate it. I'm going to pull these off just to get them out of the way, and then cut again, and I'm done. I don't even have to mess around with this log. And that, folks, is the key in production milling. Less messing around with the log. Get the log up, find the stress, knock it down, get it off the deck, get the next one up. That's the mission. Let's get her done. Off bearers are really good at this. One of the things about sawing is that manufacturers rate their sawmills at a certain amount of board feet per hour. Well, you're not getting 550 board feet an hour when you're milling alone, folks. All right, folks, there you have it. Knocked down. Now, I did flip it at the end. I saw some weighing on the far side, and I said, you know what, flip it over, let's take that out. They're just small cants at this point, but the advantage of doing that is that I get a better clamp if I've got a little bit of weighing on either end where it's hitting the side supports. It's just better. I can do that real quick, get her back going, and away we go. Now, one thing I thought I would mention is I'm carrying a sidearm. Yes, folks. You probably see me running around with a sidearm. This one is a Kimber Custom CDP2. You might think, wow, it's an expensive gun to be carrying around in the woods. They're not cheap, but then I kind of believe in high quality firearms are gonna be able to handle it. And yes, folks, I have milled for years with a sidearm. I've actually been followed around out here by a cougar. I've been charged by a feral dog, actually twice. I've had bears come take the barbecue off my deck. And you know what? I've had actually folks that, well, let's just say they're not the best kind of folks, you know, drugs and stuff, that have come out here and interrupted me, and they usually leave very, very quickly when they see that I'm armed. Instead of robbing me, they leave. So yeah, I carry a sidearm. It's just, I think, not a bad idea out here when you got cougars following you around and bears taking your barbecues, and who knows, maybe you're next. I've actually had a bear come charging up the hill at me. I yelled at him, he ran away, but you know what? There's always that one chance. So I got my sidearm. It's more of a deterrent. I can shoot the ground with it and chase the bear off. I've done it before, folks. Works better than pepper spray. Now, have you ever heard the difference between black bear scat and grizzly bear scat? Well, black bear scat, it's black and it's got berries and nuts and stuff like that in it. And grizzly bear scat, it's kind of brown and it smells like pepper and it's got little bells in it. Ha! Yeah, that's right, folks. Hey, you know, I was thinking about something, folks. I see a lot of guys complaining about sawdust on the lumber, and I know in a perfect world, perfect scenario, everything's working just right. You got like 5 bars of cell phone service, the sun is up, the moon is bright, whatever. You don't get sawdust on your boards. Well, guess what? I run a sawmill. Sawmills make sawdust, and the byproduct is lumber. So I don't worry about it. I knock them off, dry them, and move on down the road. Don't sweat the small stuff. That's kind of what I'm thinking. So, with that being said, don't forget to like the video, folks. It really helps it out. If you don't, I might have to mill in yoga pants. Ha! Y'all have a great day. You old jarhead out.